The gold arrow indicates where the shooter fired from. Looking left, why was the assailant not seen?
Oh, he's blaming the local cops.
Does the Secret Service use encrypted communications at events?
On our radio nets, we do, sir.
Are those memorialized? Are those saved?
The radio traffic from Butler, we did not have recorded.
Oh!
The difference?
2x, 3x, 5x,
National
10x.
Command authority to launch a nuclear strike.
Right, so
assets.
How many more
travel
agents?
with the president that the former president will
you are
not get.
refusing to
but
answer
the number
straight.
of Secret Service agents protecting him.
Stop interrupting me.
Go ahead,
You
Senator.
are refusing to answer clear and direct questions.
senators tore into the new acting director of the Secret Service. We know that he might be worse than the old director, Kimberly Cheadle, who's no longer with us, was able to come in, not answer any questions, kind of wrap everything up, put a bow on it and leave, passed everything off to this guy, Ronald Rutrow. And Roe is in here testifying in front of the Senate. Got a bunch of clips that we're going to go through, some of the highlights on this one from him. We've got Holly coming up, Senator Ted Cruz, Kennedy's coming up, Ron Johnson's coming up. Lot of questions and answers today. Kyle Becker clipped this one from the opening statement for us today. And here is what Mr. Ronald Roe, the new acting director, the same guy who, according to Real Clear Politics, was responsible specifically for minimizing the support that the Trump team got in terms of Secret Service agents. And now he's in charge of the whole agency. Here's what it sounded like when he was testifying in front of the Senate.
One of my first actions as acting director was traveling to the Butler Farm Show site to better understand how our protection failed. I went to the roof of the AGR building where the assailant fired shots, and I laid in a prone position to evaluate his line of sight. What I saw made me ashamed. As a career law enforcement officer and a 25-year veteran with the Secret Service, I cannot defend why that roof was not better secured. To prevent similar lapses from occurring in the future, I directed our personnel to ensure every event site security plan is thoroughly vetted by multiple experienced supervisors before it is implemented. It is clear to me that other protective enhancements could have strengthened our security at the Butler event. As such, I have directed the expanded use of unmanned aerial systems at protective sites to help detect threats on roofs and other elevated threats. I've also directed resources to facilitate our protective site communications, particularly our communications with our state and local partners. In addition, I have instructed the asset request for Secret Service protective details to be approved expeditiously and have ordered the maximum use of requested personnel at protective sites to address this heightened security environment. I've heard your calls for accountability, and I take them very seriously. And given the magnitude of this failure, the Secret Service's Office of Professional Responsibility is reviewing the actions and decision-making of Secret Service personnel in the lead-up to and on the day of the attack.
Good. So they're investigating themselves, which is good. We know they like to investigate themselves. They do it all the time. They really enjoy it because there's no consequences after they've done it to themselves. So that is one statement from him. We're going to go through a bunch of these, bunch of clips queued up. This one came over from our friend Benny Johnson. You know who he is. He clipped this one. This is Chuck Grassley's testimony. Chuck Grassley has led the charge on this. We've seen some very great letters from him. He's released some very important documents, including one of the initial surveys we saw who was assigned to what locations from him. He's got whistleblowers who've come to him to say that they moved resources from Trump over to Jill Biden. I think Jill Biden had 12 people assigned to her little stupid event for 300 people at some Italian club, which was just like, she Italian? Are you serious? So she was over there talking to nobody, and they had, I think, 12 stand-up or post agents there, 3 for Trump. How come that change was made? Grassley's been getting all of this. As usual, he has great whistleblowers who come to him, and he is from the great state of Iowa. Here is his line of questioning with Secret Service and the FBI.
Testimony, the security plan for the Butler event deviated from the Social Security standards. How would vetting by multiple experienced supervisors fix that?
So, Senator, I think having many eyes, a particular problem set, helps. That way, you don't have tunnel vision. You just focus in on one thing. And so that's why I think it's important, not only at the field office level, but also at the detail level. And part of what we had started doing with the former president's detail is having them send out site agents, having them send out supervisors. I think having that collaboration and having additional eyes to examine the problem will make sure that we're not missing anything. And I think I want that surety for myself. And I think
you've answered my question.
Yes,
Let me go on. Also to you, in your written testimony, you stated that you, quote, regret that information wasn't passed to Congress and the public sooner and with greater frequency. What's your communication plan going forward to ensure that the American people in Congress are fully informed?
So, Senator, we just started a rolling production that is bicameral. So we made our first rolling production last week. We made one yesterday. We will continue to do that. My view view is that sunshine is the best disinfectant, and we intend to provide information to Congress as it carries out its oversight function.
Also to you, I made public documents that show Secret Service deployed a counter unmanned aerial system operator on July the 13th. According to the Secret Service, the drone system was supposed to be operational at 3 p.m. that day. However, we've been told by Secret Service that because of cellular bandwidth problems, it wasn't operational until about 5:20 of that day. If the system was operational, Secret Service would have had the ability to detect the shooter and his own drone use. Why is the Secret Service dependent upon local cellular network? Does the Secret Service have a backup plan in place?
That is something that I briefed in the closed door, and again, something that has cost me a lot of sleep because of the eventual outcome of the assailant. That what if we had geolocated him because that counter-UAS platform had been up? It is something that I have struggled with to understand, and I have no explanation for it.
Okay.
It is something that I feel as though we could have perhaps found him. We could have maybe stopped him. Maybe on that particular day, he would have decided this isn't the day to do it because law enforcement just found me flying my drone. People fly drones all the time on the peripheries of our sites, and we go out and we talk to them and we ascertain what their intentions are. On this day in particular, because of the connectivity challenge, as you noted, there was a delay, and he flew his drone at 3:51 approximately. But moving forward, we are leveraging resources from the Department of Homeland Security and others to make sure that we have dedicated connectivity so that we're not reliant on public domain, so that we can ensure that whatever assets we have in place, those assets are operational. And that is my commitment to you, that we're going to make sure we're going to do that, and that is something we are moving out on.
We're getting T-Mobile too. We're going to get 2 cell phones, Chuck. Yeah. And that way, no one's going to get shot at again on our watch. All right. So here's Kennedy, who came out and said, all right, morons, listen. Is it true that there was no bullet that hit the president?
Is there any doubt in your mind or in the collective mind of the FBI that President Trump was shot in the ear by a bullet fired by the assassin crooks?
Senator, there is absolutely no doubt in the FBI's mind whether former President Trump was hit with a bullet and wounded in the ear. No doubt, there never has been.
Okay.
I've been part of this investigation since the very beginning.
Well, then why did moron Christopher Wray come out and lie about glass or shrapnel? Why did that happen?
And that has never been raised.
You're sure?
Yes.
It wasn't a space laser.
No.
No.
It wasn't a murder hornet.
No.
Absolutely not.
It wasn't Sasquatch.
No, no.
No, Senator.
It was a bullet
It was a bullet, Senator. 100%.
fired by crooks
Yes, sir.
that hit President Trump in the ear and almost killed him.
100%, Senator.
Okay.
So why did your boss, which I would have preferred that line of questioning rather than the Sasquatch bit, but you know, I do love Kennedy. I would like to know, why did your boss say it was shrapnel? Do you have any idea? Any idea why he said it might be glass? But that was what Kennedy said. We also had this one from Carly Bonney, was sharing this exchange with this senator, and they were going through some interesting documents up there on the whiteboards. Let's watch this clip.
Team lead and team lead met. They walked the site. They identified the AGR building. And if I may, Senator, if I could point out something right now, if I may, and we will place this for the record, but this is the point of view.
We love whiteboards. What's on here?
This is from the second floor of the AGR building. This point of view is the point of view where the counter sniper team locally was posted. The gold arrow indicates where the shooter fired from. Looking left. Why was the assailant not seen?
He's blaming the local cops right there. Oh, man, they're going to be so mad because this is where he's saying they should be. Saying, oh, the local cops were in charge of this building. And that's the same line of sight. We had the same question. Why couldn't they see him? He's right there.
When we were told that building was going to be covered, that there had been a face-to-face that afternoon, that our team leads met, this was the view. Let me show you another view, Senator. This view is a reenactment by one of my agents. Laying flat, there was a 5-inch rise on the middle of that roof. The assailant would have had to present his bore over that to get his shot off. The view underneath reflects the perspective that he would have had. Again, I call your attention back to the first exhibit if they'd have looked left. Give me a seat. This is what our counter sniper team saw. Shooter, no elbows. You barely make out the crown of his head. Below it, the assailant up prone. And let me just tell you, our counter sniper, this individual, I know him. I consider him a friend. He has covered me operationally in conflict zones. And when I did my time on the president's detail, he exemplifies the courage, the skill.
What does that have to do with anything?
in the ability to respond under great stress in such short time to neutralize a threat and prevent further loss of life. Getting back to your question, Senator, these were discussions that were had between the Pittsburgh field office, the local counterparts, and everyone supporting that visit that day. And that's why when I laid in that position, I could not, and I will not, and I cannot understand why there was not better coverage or at least somebody looking at that roof line when that's where they were posted.
He blamed the local cops. He blamed them directly. He blamed them so hard he brought poster boards. Man, I hope that they are pissed about that. They should be pissed. And I hope that they're assembling to come up with their defense, their response to that. Shove it back in the Secret Service's face. They don't get to come into your local town and just tell you what to do and then blame you when they fail. They've taken agency. They are the directors of the whole operation. Then they're going to say, you failed to cover the roof. That's reprehensible. Hopefully those local cops are preparing right now. Here is what Ron Johnson posted. He said, look, this is my full questioning of Director Rowe and FBI Deputy Director Abate. We need full transparency from these two. Here is Ron Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Acting Director Rowe, in our secure briefing last week, I made the point that if you don't want conspiracy theories to spread, you need to provide information. I appreciate these photos today. These things could have been released literally within days, and a whole lot more information as well. So Congress needs to provide oversight. We don't have certain investigatory tools like you have, but what we can do is do interviews. So Acting Director Rowe, did you receive our letter from July 25th requesting interviews with 13 individuals of the Secret Service?
We are in receipt of that letter, Senator.
And I don't know, Deputy Director Abate, have you seen that letter as well? Do you know who we're requesting interviews with?
Senator, I have not seen
Okay.
the letter.
Do you know whether those individuals submitted to interviews with the FBI, Acting Director Rowe?
We're in the process. Those employees are being interviewed if they have not already been interviewed, sir.
Are those interviews being transcribed?
The FBI interviews, sir?
Yes, but we have 302s on those.
Yes, Senator, we will.
Okay, when will Congress get those 302s? When will we get those transcriptions of those interviews?
Senator, I'll take that back and we'll get those to you as soon as possible.
So, Acting Director Rowe, when will those individuals be made available for Congress, for this committee to interview them?
Senator, we'll make them available.
How soon? Because memories are short. They can be influenced by events. We need these transcribed interviews as soon as possible.
30 days. Give us 30 days.
We will get that done, sir.
Does the Secret Service use encrypted communications at events?
On our radio nets, we do, sir.
Are those memorialized? Are those saved?
The radio traffic from Butler, we did not have recording.
Do you normally?
Not on the road outside of D.C. or outside of a presidential or vice presidential stop.
So communications between Secret Service agents will not be available like we've gotten the communications from local law enforcement?
Nope.
I'm sorry, Senator.
So we're not going to be able to get those communications. You didn't save them.
No, sir.
Which is very unfortunate.
It is, sir. And moving forward, I've directed that we will now start recording those so that we will have them moving forward.
And by the way, I'm going to ask for a number of things at the very end to be entered in the record, but one of my preliminary findings is that the Secret Service did not attend the 9 o'clock briefing the day of the event.
Remember that the Secret Service doesn't want to keep anything, okay? They deleted all the J6 text messages too. They're not in the business of archiving their own malfeasance. No, we'll change the policies after we missed.
In your testimony, you said that a site briefing was conducted with Secret Service personnel and law enforcement partners supporting the event. Those both can't be true. So local law enforcement do not believe Secret Service was present at the 9 o'clock briefing. Were they or were they not?
So, Senator, with respect to the snipers that went on national television and gave an interview and said that they did not get a briefing from the Secret Service, they were supporting through mutual aid, and our personnel briefed the tactical team leader that was leading that element that was providing this counter sniper.
So, Acting Director Rowe, you said that the Secret Service provides explicit instructions to the locals. Were explicit instructions provided to cover the roof of the AGR building and locals just not follow it, or were those explicit instructions not provided?
My understanding, what was communicated is that the locals had a plan and that they had been there before.
So an awful lot of the chatter on social media has to do with is there partisanship in the Secret Service, providing coverage for some individuals and none for others.
Jill.
About Secret Service coverage or additional coverage enhancements being denied. Was there ever requested additional coverage for Mar-a-Lago?
Senator, we have provided additional resources to the Mar-a-Lago.
What was coverage asked for and denied ever?
I'll have to research that, Senator, but I'm happy to tell you we have made significant investments since the former president has left office.
That's not the
over
question.
$4 million of technology, resources,
documents
and
will
yes,
come
sir.
out eventually to make the point one way or the other. This is an important piece of information that Congress needs to
Are
have.
you lying
Senator,
or not?
we'll make those available to you, the investments we've made.
There's a report today by Susan Crabtree of Real Clear Politics saying that you denied sniper coverage outside of driving distance of D.C. Is that true?
That is a false statement, sir.
Well, that is incorrect.
That is incorrect.
Okay, that's the kind of information you need to refute with documentation.
Did anybody in the agency make that decision?
Deputy Director Bate, You said this is an assassination attempt and domestic terrorism. It's obviously assassination attempt. Why make the distinction? What is different about that?
We think it's important to cover all the possibilities here and the reality of what we're dealing with and what we've all seen, Senator. And we've learned lessons from the past. The tragic shooting at the baseball field was referenced here. We've learned the lesson from that. That was not opened properly, and we've made changes in the Bureau, and it's reflected here in terms of how this investigation is being approached with a completely open mind and inclusive of all the possibilities, including domestic terrorism.
I fear that makes the investigation potentially partisan. Mr. Chairman, I would like to request that my July 14th letter to Attorney General Garland, Mayorkas, and Wray be entered in the record. It asks for all kinds of information, documentation, asks a lot of questions. My preliminary findings of July 21st and July 23rd, including timelines, a bunch of questions as well, be entered in the record. And then our updated timeline dated today. This goes not only by minute, by second, and we will continue to update this timeline as more information becomes public. This is the way you do investigation. We need to find out literally second by second what happens. So the American public understands the truth.
Yeah, a lot harder to do that when they delete all the evidence. Oh, we just weren't recording it. Yeah, very convenient for them. So Josh Hawley went into this aggressively. Shout out to our friend Julie Kelly, who has clipped this for us here today. She clipped this one. Josh Hawley went into it. We're going to hear from him and Ted Cruz coming up.
From this vantage point, as the law enforcement who are in those windows, as they look left, they should be able to see the shooter clearly there on the AGR second floor roof. My question is, why is there not a Secret Service counter sniper on that roof?
So, Senator, when we post up, our methodology is to look at things that can see in on our protectees so that they can provide that coverage.
But why is there not a Secret Service counter sniper there with clear line of sight? That roof has a clear line of sight to the former president. Why didn't you put a Secret Service counter sniper there?
The Secret Service's counter sniper role is to neutralize those threats that are looking in on us from where the protectee is, not necessarily
you think maybe position. You might want to revise that protocol in light of what happened here?
They were protecting the principal, and I think
the principal got shot.
I understand that, sir.
So do you think you might want to revise the protocol? Let me ask you this. Who was the lead site agent who made the decision to leave the AGR building completely outside of the security perimeter? Who was that?
Senator, I cannot give you that name. This person is operational. They're still doing investigations. They're still doing protective visits.
Have they been relieved of duty?
Senator, they have not been relieved of duty. I know their name, by the way.
Why have they not been relieved of duty?
They are still cooperating, not only being interviewed by the FBI, but also by our Office of Professional Responsibility.
They got a bunch of stuff to cover up, man. You can't remove his key card, okay? Like, go home. Like, he's out there. He's like shredding dot. Hey, did you delete the hard drive? He's out there with Hillary Clinton, like with a cloth. He's like, what did she use? Deleting everything. So, no, he's still around.
And we will let the facts of the mission assurance and any further investigations play out.
Isn't the fact that a former president was shot, that a good American is dead, that other Americans were critically wounded, isn't that enough mission failure for you to say that the person who decided that that building should not be in the security perimeter probably ought to be stepped down?
Senator, I think you're using the word decided, and I think we need to allow the investigation play out to include.
Who did make the decision then? If it wasn't the lead site agent, who made the decision not to put that in the security perimeter?
Senator, you're zeroing in on one particular agent. I want to find out exactly what was the entire decision process. So I think I want to be neutral and make sure that we get to the bottom of it and interview everybody in order to determine if there was more than one person who perhaps exercised bad judgment.
Well, sure. My question is, why don't you relieve everybody of duty who made bad judgment? So yeah, you're right. I am zeroing in on somebody. I'm trying to find somebody who's accountable here. And you're telling me that the person who made the decision not to include this in the perimeter has not been relieved of duty. What about the person who's in charge of the interoperability of radio frequencies between local law enforcement and Secret Service? Has that person been relieved of duty?
No, Senator, because interoperability is a greater challenge than just one person. On that day, we had a counterpart.
Has anybody been relieved of duty?
System. It failed.
Other than Cheadle?
As the person who made the decision to send Donald Trump onto stage knowing that you had a security situation, has that person been relieved of duty?
No, sir, they haven't.
As the person who decided not to pull the former president off of stage when you knew that, in your words, the locals were working a serious security situation, has that person been relieved of duty?
No, sir. Again, I refer you back to my original answer that we
hope he asks that.
Investigating this through mission assurance, and as opposed to zeroing in on one.
What more do you need to investigate to know?
Exactly what the decision-making process was.
What more do you need to investigate to know that there were critical enough failures that some individuals ought to be held accountable. I mean, what more do you need to know?
What I need to know is exactly what happened, and I need my investigators to do their job, and I cannot...
A lot of people didn't do their
I cannot
jobs.
put my thumb on the scale, otherwise...
What do you mean put your thumb on the
Their thumb is on the scale.
You're asking me, Senator, to completely make a rush to judgment about somebody failing. I acknowledge this was a failure of the
Is it
Secret
not
Service.
prima facie that somebody has failed? A former president was shot.
Sir, this could have been our Texas school book depository. I have lost sleep over that for the last 17 days,
Then
just like you
fire
have.
somebody to
and I will
hold them
tell you,
accountable.
Senator, that I will not rush to judgment, that people will be held accountable, and I will do so with integrity and not rush to judgment and put people
I can't believe
unfairly
that you
persecuted.
are unfairly persecuted.
Unfairly,
We've got people
sir,
who are
we
dead.
have to be able to have a proper investigation into this, Senator.
You said earlier that you've got to make sure
Cover
that your
up.
protocols are followed, and unless there's a protocol violation, people wouldn't be disciplined. I would just say to you, I don't really care that much about your protocols. I think if your protocols don't provide for the fact that when a former president is shot, when an American is killed, when other rally-goers, innocent people who just showed up on the day, when they are shot at and critically wounded, if that isn't a protocol violation prima facie, you should revise your protocols.
Senator, I think this is where you and I agree. This was a failure, and we will get to the bottom of it.
Well, I hope you're going to do something about it. Let me ask you something else. The Real Clear Politics reports this morning that you were directly involved in denying additional security resources and personnel, including counter snipers, not just to this event, but over the last 2 years, that President Trump's team repeatedly asked for these additional resources, and you personally were involved in denying them. Is that true?
Senator, as I stated earlier, that is not true.
So you never denied any resources to former President Trump's team?
No, not me. No, sir.
And you weren't involved in any of that? You
No,
were never
sir, I
involved
was
in the
not.
decision-making?
No, sir, I was not.
Let me ask you just one or two other things.
I didn't do it. Somebody else did.
Well, whistleblowers tell me that, in fact, law enforcement were stationed to be on that roof and that law enforcement abandoned their posts because it was too hot. Is that accurate?
Senator, I have heard that as well. Again, they posted up inside. And I think moving forward, as I said earlier, we're going to ensure that state and local counter snipers are on roofs.
But do you know if someone was supposed to be on the roof? Do you know if someone was, in fact, that's what the whistleblowers tells me, that may or may not be accurate. Do you know that to be the fact? Was somebody posted to the roof, local law enforcement or whomever?
I do not know that to be a fact.
Well, can I ask you why you don't know that?
Again, Senator, we are looking at this,
Ongoing
and
investigation.
they should have been on that roof, and the fact that they were in the building is something that I'm still trying to understand.
I just want to express my frustration, Director, that 17 days or whatever it's been, that whistleblowers are telling us more than you are, and you don't know, you haven't ascertained if there was supposed to be law enforcement on the roof. That seems like a pretty basic fact. I'm also told that local law enforcement suppliers offered the Secret Service drones, and you declined them.
Yeah.
Is that true?
So, Senator, one, I've been very transparent and forthcoming.
Your agency has not been transparent and forthcoming, so please, let's not go there.
I have been forthcoming, sir.
You've been, well, that remains to be seen. You've been on the job a few days. So far, you've fired nobody. Now, the drones.
Thank you,
Were
sir.
you offered drones?
Senator
So
Hawley.
there was an offer to fly a drone on that day.
And why did you deny it?
Again, I think the
Our cell
ability
phone.
of local law enforcement to provide an asset, we probably should have taken them up on it if it was offered.
Yeah, probably should have. Again, bunch of these weird mistakes, one after another. It seems like they compound into tragedy, almost like they wanted it to happen. They enabled it. Here is, as we wrap it up, Ted Cruz lacing in on the Secret Service.
The Trump team had not asked for additional security and had not been rebuffed.
If you're talking about Butler, Pennsylvania, all assets requested were approved. If you're talking about the media reporting of assets requested, there were times when assets were unavailable and not able to be filled.
Oh, his story changes a little bit.
And those gaps were staffed with state and local law enforcement tactical assets.
So
No, we didn't deny anybody, okay? We just didn't have them. Interesting.
I'm reading from the Washington Post, July 20th, 2024. Secret Service said to have denied requests for more security at Trump events. The opening paragraph, top officials of the U.S. Secret Service repeatedly denied requests for additional resources and personnel sought by Donald Trump's security detail in the 2 years leading up to his attempted assassination, according to 4 people familiar with the requests. Is that right, that repeatedly the Trump detail asked for more resources and repeatedly Secret Service leadership turned that down?
That is not accurate, Senator. Assets are requested. There's a process that is made.
How many requests did the Trump team or the Trump detail ask for?
I can get you that number in a queue.
You don't know now.
So I can speak to the ones that reported in the Washington Post, and we can go through them if you like.
But you don't know how many requests there were.
In general, how many requests since 2021 that the former Trump detail has made made a request for assets?
You've had 2 weeks. You had a spokesperson put something out that is false on its face. By the way, did you approve this statement when it went out?
I don't know if I did or didn't, Senator.
Has this spokesperson, is he still employed? Does he still have a job?
He is still employed, Senator.
So he lied on behalf of the Secret Service. He still has a job. Did your predecessor, the former director, did she approve this statement?
Senator, our comms team, they send out statements. They do deconflict them and they put them out.
They just make them up.
Did she approve this statement?
I don't know if she did or did not, Senator.
And you don't know if you did either?
I don't recall approving it, Senator.
Will you commit to provide this committee in writing every written request for additional resources from the Trump campaign or the Trump detail and every response from Secret Service?
In 30 days.
Senator, I will commit to providing responses and getting you the information that you are seeking.
Let me ask you something.
In 15 days.
And who makes the decision to deny those requests? Did you make that decision?
Which requests? Are you talking about the ones that were in the
Any of
Washington
them.
Post?
Yes.
The process, sir, is that a detail will make a request for either staffing, technical assets. That is handled between the field office and the detail. It goes up to a logistics office between our...
Okay, so there's a bureaucracy. Is there a decision maker?
It's not a bureaucracy, Senator.
Give me the
It's a
person that's a decision maker. Is there
You're
one?
a government bureaucracy.
Senator, it's a conversation. It's not just an absolute yay or nay.
So let me tell you what I believe. I believe that the Secret Service leadership made a political decision to deny these requests. And I think the Biden administration has been suffused with partisan politics. Did the same person who denied the request for additional security to President Trump also repeatedly deny the request for security to Robert F. Kennedy Jr., whose father was murdered by an assassin and whose uncle was murdered by an assassin? Did the same person make that decision?
Senator, what I will tell you is that Secret Service agents are not political.
Okay, you're not answering my question. But you know what? Leadership appointed by the president. Leadership appointed by the president is political. I have a simple question: yes or no? Did the same person deny the Trump request that also denied the RFK request? That's a yes or no question.
Senator, that is not a yes or no question. One, there is a process for a candidate nominee to receive protection.
Does the buck stop anywhere? Does the buck stop anywhere?
Bipartisan process that the Hill
It's a bicameral, bipartisan process. What camera?
For a candidate,
you are not a Congress. You don't have a camera.
Mr. Kennedy submitted a request that was referred over to the CPAC.
Okay, you're refusing to answer the question. Let me ask, because the failures on that day were catastrophic. By the way, is it true that on the day of the Butler event that Secret Service transferred agent from President Trump to the First Lady?
No, sir, that's not true.
That's been widely reported.
It's not true. There was one airport agent that actually went on the manpower request for the Trump detail. They handled the arrival at the airport
What was the relative size of the Trump detail compared to the detail that is assigned to the President or the First Lady?
12 and 3. Jill.
Senator, the former president travels with a full shift, just like the president.
What's
12 and 3.
So the exact same size? Is that your testimony, that President Trump had the same size detail that President Biden has?
On the day of in Butler, the agents surrounding him, it is the same number of agents surrounding the president today. There is a difference between a sitting president who also not only
Hold on, you're using president in a way that is not clear. Is it your testimony that in Butler, Pennsylvania, Donald Trump had the same number of agents protecting him that Joe Biden has at a comparable event?
I'm telling you the shift, the close protection shift surrounding.
That's a yes
what
or
you
no.
asked
Very
me,
sneaky
Senator,
with his
and I'm
words.
trying to answer it.
Yeah.
You are not answering.
Yeah.
Is it the same number
What's
of
a
agents or
shift?
not?
Senator,
What's a
there is a
shift?
difference between the sitting president of the United States.
Then what's the difference?
The difference?
2x, 3x, 5x,
National
10x?
Command Authority to launch a nuclear strike.
Right,
Sir,
so-
assets
How many
that
more
travel with
agents?
the president that
Sir,
the former president will
you are
not
refusing
get.
to
But
answer
the number
straight.
of Secret Service
Sir,
agents protecting him.
Stop interrupting me.
Go ahead,
You
Senator.
are refusing to answer clear and direct questions. I am asking the relative difference in the number of agents between those assigned to Donald Trump and those assigned to Joe Biden. I'm not...
All right, so you can see that he got into it. A lot of heat from the senators. And so one after another. Now, the thing, I think the takeaway on this is what they've done in terms of blaming the other local cops for this. And so we saw those boards right there. Yes, reprehensible behavior from the Secret Service. Their job is to protect the president, the former president here, Donald Trump. And they brought poster boards to blame the local cops. And he blamed them hard. Why didn't they look? Can't imagine why they weren't there. Calling the local cops liars, saying that, no, we did brief them. They said we weren't briefed. The Secret Service didn't show up at all. They said, yes, we did. You guys are liars and losers. And you're responsible for the dead person. You're responsible for Trump being shot in the head. It's not the Secret Service at all. Passing the buck, blaming the local cops, because of course the Secret Service won't accept responsibility for this at all. Now, we saw a bunch of those Republican senators were not letting up so easily. honestly, wondering how magical incompetence just continues one after another. Act, decision, incompetent, one after another. Suddenly, Trump nearly gets shot in the head. And then they blame the cops, man. This guy came out and did his job. He had to pound the table. He had to show moral outrage in order to create their narrative that they care. We know that they don't. So we're going to be here, my friends, continuing to cover this and much more. Thank you so much for subscribing to our channel. We go live at this time every single weekday. We'd love to have you join us as we do, and we'll look forward to seeing you back here on the next one.